Chapter 801. They want us to humiliate the Ling family so that they can't inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire? The envoy from the Empire of Qin frowned as he read the letter. The one who sent the letter was the eldest son of their clan leader. He was the one who had the most potential in their clan. This letter had the family's seal on it. Obviously, the envoy had gotten the clan's approval. But to humiliate the Ling family so that they couldn't inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire? The Ling family's ascension to the throne was supported by evil Dr. Gui Tong. When the Tianyu Empire changed hands, the Ling family requested to inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire. The Empire of Qin had already agreed. After all, it was just an empire. For the Empire of Qin, it didn't matter who ascended to the throne, not to mention the black field behind evil Dr. Gui Tong. The Empire of Qin wouldn't provoke and offend the black field over such a trivial matter. But now, the clan was asking them to humiliate the Ling family. The envoy from the great Qin sacred dynasty was put in a difficult position. At this moment, the person beside him suggested, "My lord, I think the message is asking us to humiliate the Ling family so that they will give up the throne of the Tianyu Empire." The subordinate said, "Think about it." The Empire of Qin gave the Black Field a name and acknowledged their legitimacy to inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire. That's the grace of the Empire of Qin. But what if the Ling family is arrogant and doesn't take the Empire of Qin seriously? Then this grace will be wasted, won't it? The subordinate said with a sinister smile. "We'll do whatever we want when we get there. Whether the Ling family can't stand it and give up or resist, we'll achieve our goal." "My lord, I heard that the eldest son of your clan is in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin and has a good relationship with you, Wenma. You're probably helping him vent his anger." "My lord, if you do this well, you won't be punished at all. Instead, you'll be doing a meritorious deed for the clan. At that time, with the support of the clan, my lord's strength and status will definitely rise to another level," the subordinate said respectfully. Hearing that, the envoy narrowed his eyes and laughed. Then, he laughed and said, "That's right." He patted his subordinate's shoulder and said, "You're right. If that's the case, the sacred dynasty won't be able to blame anyone. Moreover, he would be able to complete the task assigned to him by his clan, and from then on, he would have a meteoric rise." "Wonderful." The envoy clapped his hands. "When we enter Tianyu's imperial capital, there's no need to give them any face. Humiliate him to death." "Oh right, which Ling clan rose to power by stepping on Yuan clan?" The envoy rolled his eyes and immediately came up with an idea. It would be a wonderful thing if he could ruin the Ling family's succession to the throne of the Tianyu Empire and curry favor with young Master Yuan Mo. Thinking of this, the envoy ordered his men to speed up towards the Tianyu Empire. In the imperial palace of the Tianyu Empire, Grandfather Ling was pleasantly surprised to see Luo Qingtong. "Miss Qingtong," he said respectfully. Without Luo Qingtong's permission, he didn't reveal her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Seeing his actions, a few of the Ling family's juniors present were shocked. Why is grandfather so respectful to her? Chapter 802. She looked at Luo Qingtong's beautiful face and a trace of displeasure flashed across her face. Qiu Manling followed her mother back to the Ling family. As the daughter of the Ling family who had married the best, she was very confident in the Ling family. The Qiu family was quite famous in the Blue Moon Commandery of the Empire of Qin Sacred Dynasty. A commandery was a vassal state established in the territories of the princes and princesses of the Empire of Qin Sacred Dynasty. It was also a subordinate of the Empire of Qin Sacred Dynasty and had to pay tribute to the dynasty. However, in terms of strength and status, it was superior to the empire. Qiu Manling was born in the Blue Moon Commandery and was naturally arrogant. If the Ling family hadn't obtained the throne of the Tianyu Empire, she wouldn't have returned to the Ling family. Now that he saw Grandfather Ling treating Luo Qingtong so intimately and respectfully, he instantly felt indignant. Even the other party didn't treat her like this. Could it be that her status as the legitimate daughter of the Qiu family in the Blue Moon Commandery couldn't compare to this young girl in front of her? Qiu Manling didn't think the Ling family would be acquainted with the legitimate daughter of a powerful family. After all, it was said that this time, the throne was won by the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. If the Ling family had connections in the empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, why would they need the other party's help? Thinking of this, Chiu Manling's expression became even more arrogant and dissatisfied. I don't know either. The Ling family girl she asked shook her head and said, but I heard that she is the legitimate daughter of the Luo family in the easternly country. When she heard the name Qingtong, she had some impression. After all, she was engaged to Yuan Mo. Soon, she remembered Luo Qingtong's identity and immediately told Chiu Manling. When she heard that the other party was only the legitimate daughter of a marquis from an inferior country and was engaged to the former Yuan imperial family of the Tianyu Empire, a trace of disdain flashed across Chiu Manling's face. The people of the Ling family really had no confidence at all. They had to curry favor with such a person. Were they afraid that the other party would cause trouble for them? That's right. After all, they didn't rely on their own strength to destroy the former imperial family. But what was wrong with this Luo Qingtong? The Yuan family was already destroyed and she still came to ask for money? If she was in her shoes, she wouldn't be shameless. Chiu Manling looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain. After Grandfather Ling and Luo Qingtong chatted for a while and left, she led a group of Ling family disciples forward. She looked up at Luo Qingtong and said, "May I know where elder sister is from?" Seeing the young masters and young mistresses of the Ling family, you didn't even greet us. You must have an extraordinary background, right? Can you tell us so that we can pay s? She of Qingtongs, Chiu said of the families of the capital of the Qin family s's. Was Chiu's. She clearly knew Luo Qingtong's identity, but she purposely asked. Then, she mentioned her identity and the matter of her greeting. She was pressuring Luo Qingtong. Manling. Hearing her words, the Ling family's young girl beside her hurriedly pulled her back. No matter what the other party's background was, she was still Grandfather Ling's guest. It wasn't good for them to target her like this. Luo Qingtong raised her brows and looked at the young girl standing in front of her. The other party was using her status to pressure her? Luo Qingtong found it funny. With her status as a princess of the Great Chu sacred dynasty, even if the one standing here was the sage emperor of the Empire of Qin, she didn't need to kneel, bow, or salute. Chapter 803. For the sake of the Ling family, Luo Qingtong didn't want to bicker with them. She looked at the group of curious Ling family youths behind Chiu Manling and nodded with a faint smile. Luo Qingtong. These people weren't here to cause trouble for her. Besides, they were Ling Yu, and Ling Tianhan's siblings. Luo Qingtong thought for a moment, then took out a few jade bottles and handed them to them. These are the gifts that Tianhan and Yu asked me to bring you. After all, they were half a family. Luo Qingtong didn't mind helping Ling Yu, and Ling Tianhan out. Moreover, Grandfather Ling had just agreed to help her transfer the medicinal ingredients. The Ling family was preparing for the coronation and was very busy. Since old Master Ling was so concerned about her, Luo Qingtong naturally had to return the favor. These jade bottles contained pills that she had refined for the Luo family's soldiers and the heavenly evil valley. They were pills that could improve their physique. They weren't very precious to her, but to the outside world, they were priceless. Combined with Luo Qingtong's medicinal liquid, the effects would be greatly enhanced. Taking them over a long period of time would improve one's innate talent. I wonder what kind of trash these are. Chiu Manling looked at the jade bottles with disdain. With the other party's status as a low-level family from a low-level country, what good things could he bring out? What gifts for Ling Tianhan and Ling Yu? She must be afraid that others would reject her gifts and look bad, so she purposely said that? Chiu Manling's expression became even more disdainful. She wouldn't want these things even if they were given to her. In fact, Luo Qingtong didn't intend to give them to her. She had only prepared a portion for the Ling family disciples. When it was Chiu Manling's turn, there wasn't any left. In any case, this young miss of the Chiu family didn't care about her trash, right? Luo Qingtong's smile was faint. Xiao Manling looked at her and gritted her teeth. She said, Luo Qingtong, I remember your name. Aren't you the legitimate daughter of a marquis from an inferior country that the royal family of Tianyu despises? She sneered at Luo Qingtong. What? Now that the royal family of Tianyu has been destroyed, you have no one to rely on, so you want to rely on the Ling family? Do you think that just because Tianyu's royal family doesn't want you, our Ling clan will? Even if the fifth prince doesn't like you, would cousin Tianhan like you? Let me tell you, stop daydreaming. The moment Xiao Manling said that, Little Pig's voice rang out in Luo Qingtong's mind. Oh my god, I'm so happy. So your backing is the royal family of Tianyu, and now you want to rely on the Ling clan? Ling Tianhan doesn't even like you. I can't take it anymore. I'm dying of laughter. Oh my god. Even if you gave Ling Tianhan that chance, he wouldn't dare to take a fancy to you. Damn. Also, what the hell was he trying to do with the Ling family? Didn't they see how respectful old Master Ling was just now? Also, Little Pig was laughing so hard that he was about to collapse in Luo Qingtong's sleeve. Tianyu's royal family was destroyed by you. This girl has a bright future in telling jokes. Ah. I can't take it anymore, I'm dying of laughter. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but laugh at Little Pig's words. Xiao Manling was instantly enraged when she saw the smile on her face. Chapter 804. The moment she said that, Luo Qingtong's expression turned cold. She couldn't be bothered to argue with her. Did she really think she was afraid of her? Leave the Ling family? She would like to see who would leave the Ling family. Just as Luo Qingtong's expression turned cold, there was a sudden commotion outside. Quick, quick, quick. The envoy from the Empire of Qin is here. He's already in the main hall. Young masters and young ladies, let's hurry to the main hall to welcome him. A group of Ling family servants rushed in from outside, their faces full of joy. They had just received a notice from outside that the envoy from the Empire of Qin was here to announce the decree. This was an important matter that couldn't be delayed. Xiao Manling's face lit up when she heard the servant's words. The envoy from the Empire of Qin was here. As the legitimate daughter of the Qiu family of Blue Moon Commandery, she would naturally be the one to be seated. Even the Ling family didn't have as much influence as she did. How could she not go to such a limelight event? She hurriedly lifted her skirt and was about to leave. However, she didn't forget about Luo Qingtong. Instead, she glanced at her and said, Luo Qingtong, the envoy from the Empire of Qin is here. You should go to the main hall to take a look. See how big the gap between you and the Ling family is. Stop dreaming. Tianyu's royal family had an engagement with her, but the Ling family didn't. If she knew what was good for her, Luo Qingtong would stop pestering her. Otherwise, she would only be humiliating herself when she went to the main hall later. Manling. Hearing Xiao Manling's words, the Ling family disciples immediately voiced their disapproval. Xiao Manling had already gone overboard with her words. Now, she even called Luo Qingtong to the main hall to welcome the envoy from the Empire of Qin. What was she trying to do? To further humiliate Luo Qingtong? She was a guest of the Ling family, a guest of their grandfather. Manling had gone too far. A disciple of the Ling family said to Luo Qingtong, Miss Luo, don't mind it. Just wait here for Grandpa. It's okay. Luo Qingtong said indifferently, let's go together. Just as well. I also want to pay my respects to the elegant bearing of the envoy of the Empire of Qin. She also wanted to see how someone was going to humiliate her. Luo Qingtong said and walked out with Xiao Manling and the others. Except for Luo Qingtong, everyone was excited. Xiao Manling, in particular, was chattering about the various powerful aspects of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty and how famous the Qiu clan was in Blue Moon Commandery. As a matter of fact, the Empire of Qin had been divided into countless commanderies. In the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, the Blue Moon Commandery could only be considered above average. The Qiu clan was famous in Blue Moon Commandery, but that was only in Blue Moon Commandery. In the empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, they were nothing. However, the disciples of the Ling family did not know that. When they heard Xiao Manling talk about the Blue Moon Commandery and the empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, they were all amazed. To them, the empire of Qin's sacred dynasty was powerful and mysterious. So was the Blue Moon Commandery. Needless to say, the Qiu clan was so famous in Blue Moon Commandery. The group of people whispered excitedly as they walked towards the main hall. Just as they stepped through the door of the side hall and were about to walk to the main hall, a loud bang suddenly came from the front. It was followed by Grandfather Ling's angry voice. "This is impossible. You must be dreaming. Wishful thinking." What was going on? Chapter 805. Weren't they receiving the envoys from the Empire of Qin? Why were they so angry? The group of people had a bad feeling. When they entered the side palace, they immediately saw Grandfather Ling and the others furiously confronting Great Qin's envoy and the others in front of them. Grandfather Ling, the envoys from the Empire of Qin were very arrogant. Especially the subordinates of the envoy who spoke. They looked at the Ling family members as if they were looking at a pile of trash. Don't forget how your Ling family got the throne. The imperial family of Tianyu offended evil Dr. Gui Tong, but they didn't offend your Ling family, right? You stepped on their bones to get to the throne. Shouldn't you show some gratitude? The subordinate sneered and raised his head, looking down his nose. Our lord asked you to set up a monument for the Tianyu imperial family. That's doing your Ling clan a favor. It's fine if your Ling family doesn't appreciate it. How dare you yell at us? Old Master Ling, is the Ling family looking down on the sacred dynasty? Don't you want to accept the grace that the holy dynasty has given you? Truly arrogant, conceited, and insufferably arrogant. I think your Ling family doesn't want the throne anymore. Does your Ling family want to be exterminated? The subordinate reprimanded sternly as he spoke. Nonsense. Grandfather Ling was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He pointed at the group of Great Qin envoys and said, "Let's move all the memorial tablets of Tianyu's imperial family to our Ling clan's ancestral hall and worship them as our ancestral tablets." He also asked us to build a bronze statue of Emperor Tianyu in the imperial capital. He also asked us to mourn for the imperial family of Tianyu for 3 years. You're not asking us to erect tombstones for Tianyu's imperial family. You're trampling on the dignity of our Ling clan. I don't care what benefits you Wen Ma gave you to humiliate our Ling family like this. We'd rather die than agree to these conditions. Putting aside how humiliating it was to move the memorial tablets of the Tianyu royal family into the Ling family's ancestral hall, just the bronze statue of the Emperor of Tianyu and the ceremony of filial sons and grandsons for the Tianyu royal family to observe mourning for them. Even if the Ling family didn't have to do it for 3 years, as long as they did it for 1 day or 2 hours, they would be admitting to the imperial family of Tianyu. They would inherit the throne and the imperial family of Tianyu. By then, the Ling family would become the laughing stock of the world. Many empires would disdain to interact with them. Who would want to interact with a family that voluntarily admitted to being the imperial family's descendants? Were they shameless? Besides, Tianyu's imperial family was Luo Qingtong. If the Ling family helped Luo Qingtong, they would never do anything for them from the perspective of the Tianyu royal family. Therefore, Grandfather Ling would never agree to these 3 conditions. Don't make up so many excuses. Don't try to slander us. The subordinate snorted coldly. You people from the Ling family are treating the holy dynasty's grace as nothing. Chapter 806. You're so stubborn and have no regard for your superiors. You don't deserve to inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire. I'll report what happened today to the imperial dynasty after we go back. Don't even think about the throne of the Ling family. In addition, he sneered, we'll definitely move the memorial tablets of the Tianyu imperial family into the heavenly temple. The people of your Ling family must also be filial to them for 3 days and 3 nights. If you don't want to, we'll force you. Guards. When the subordinate said this, he was about to order everyone in his team to take action. For the imperial dynasty of the Empire of Qin, even if it was just an ordinary entourage, the strength of the experts in it was enough to crush the Tianyu Empire and the Ling family. Seeing that the martial emperors were about to make a move, the faces of the Ling family's members instantly turned pale. At this moment, the group of boys and girls hurriedly cried out, "Wait!" As they spoke, they pushed Qiu Manling out. "Our Ling family has the legitimate daughter of the Qiu family of Blue Moon Commandery. The Qiu family and our Ling family are in-laws." The group of young men and women of Ling clan were talking to each other. Crying, they turned to Qiu Manling and said, "Manling, please talk to Great Qin's envoy. Tell them not to treat our Ling family like this. Didn't you say that the Qiu family is powerful in Blue Moon Commandery? Manling, help our Ling family." Qiu Manling's face stiffened. She had boasted in front of the Ling family members, but in fact, Blue Moon Commandery was just above average among the many commanderies of the Empire of Qin. The Qiu family was respected in Blue Moon Commandery, but it didn't mean they were respected in the Empire of Qin. If the Blue Moon Commandery's royal family members or her father were here, the envoys might give them some face, but who was she? As expected, the envoys from the Empire of Qin laughed when they heard what the Ling family members said. "Blue Moon Commandery? The Qiu family? I've never heard of it. There are so many commanderies in the Empire of Qin. I don't know where the Qiu family came from. As for this Qiu family's first daughter, she's not even a famous genius. Your Ling family is using her to pressure us. What a joke." The group of envoys from the Empire of Qin couldn't help but laugh out loud. Although their official position and strength were nothing in the Empire of Qin's holy dynasty, they were not people who could be suppressed by a commandery's family. Not to mention that the other party was only the daughter of the first wife of a family. She couldn't even be considered a genius. If it weren't for their family's orders, they might have given the other party some face. But now, he was only humiliating himself. The crowd was filled with disdain. Qiu Manling was even more flustered. She wished that there was a hole in the ground for her to crawl into. She could feel the disbelief in the eyes of the Ling family disciples as they looked at her. She felt an indescribable sense of humiliation. She had shown off too much in front of the Ling family. Who would have thought that these envoys from the Empire of Qin would attack her the moment they arrived? Their Qiu family's bit of strength was simply not enough in front of the other party. "Humph. Do it." The envoys snorted coldly. Since the Ling family refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, he would fulfill their wish. They had to accept the offerings of the Tianyu royal family whether they wanted to or not. Chapter 807. They would say that the Ling family was arrogant and didn't want to accept the Holy Dynasty's grace. They were deliberately provoking them. No matter how much the Holy Dynasty feared the Black Field, they wouldn't tolerate the Ling family's shameful behavior. After all, if the Ling family was able to humiliate the Holy Dynasty, what would happen to the numerous commanderies, empires, high-class, middle-class, and low-class countries under the Holy Dynasty of the Empire of Qin? If everyone followed the Ling family's example and humiliated the Holy Dynasty, what would happen to the Holy Dynasty's dignity and dignity? They couldn't make an exception. With that thought in mind, the envoy was filled with pride. So what if he was going to disobey the orders of the sacred dynasty? Would the Ling family be able to sue him in the Holy Dynasty? Even if they did, would the Holy Dynasty believe them? Or would they believe them? Chi. With that thought in mind, the envoy was about to order his men to attack mercilessly. At this moment, a clear voice rang out from behind the group of young men and women. The people from the Empire of Qin are indeed powerful. Everyone was stunned when they heard the voice. Especially Grandfather Ling. He was so angry that he wanted to fight for his life. When he heard the voice, he seemed to have thought of something and his eyes lit up with hope. How could he forget about that person? Grandfather Ling was too angry just now. These envoys from the Empire of Qin attacked him as soon as they arrived. He was so confused that he forgot that Luo Qingtong was still in the palace. With the young lady of the Luo family, the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, these people from the Empire of Qin wouldn't be able to get away with it. What's more, they were here to support the Tianyu imperial family. Putting everything else aside, Luo Qingtong wanted to destroy the royal family of Tianyu. The Ling family was just taking advantage of this opportunity to take over the throne of the Tianyu Empire. If these people from the Empire of Qin supported the Tianyu imperial family, they would offend no one but Luo Qingtong. With that thought, he immediately looked at Luo Qingtong with a hopeful gaze. Miss Qingtong. With Luo Qingtong around, as long as she revealed her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, these people from the Empire of Qin wouldn't dare to be too presumptuous. In the end, they would have to hand over the decree obediently. The young men and women of the Ling family were shocked when they saw Luo Qingtong walk out from behind them. This was especially true for Qiu Manling. She looked at the beautiful girl walking past her, and her face was filled with jealousy and mockery. Luo Qingtong is courting death. She has no right to speak in front of the envoys from the Empire of Qin dynasty. Even I, the legitimate daughter of the Qiu family of the Blue Moon Commandery, am looked down upon by the envoys of the Great Qin sacred dynasty. What right does she have to stop them? Does she really think that she can convince the Great Qin sacred dynasty's envoys to let the Ling family go just because she is reasonable? The young men and family members of the Ling family had Luo Qingtong. They were very grateful that Luo Qingtong spoke up for the Ling family at this time. However, if the people from the Empire of Qin dynasty didn't even give face to Qiu Manling, it was useless for Luo Qingtong to speak up. The young men and women thought so, but they didn't see the surprised look on their parents' faces. Who are you? The envoy from the Empire of Qin dynasty frowned when he saw Luo Qingtong standing in front of the Ling family. You don't have the right to know who I am. Chapter 808. Haha. Upon hearing Luo Qingtong's words, the envoy burst into laughter as though he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Did I hear that right? You want us to leave behind a decree and get out of the Tianyu palace? His face was full of mockery. This young girl who came out of nowhere probably doesn't know what the Empire of Qin dynasty means. Why are there so many ignorant people nowadays? The first daughter of the Blue Moon Commandery's Qiu family came out of nowhere, and now there's this unknown young girl. All right. Since you want the decree, come and get it yourself. The envoy said as he took out the decree in his hand and raised it high with a sneer on his face. Let's not talk about whether she had the ability to take the decree from him. This decree was imbued with the Great Qin sacred dynasty's fate suppression. Without his official aura to remove it, anyone who touched this decree would be suppressed by the fate suppression on it. He wanted to see if the other party dared to come and take this decree. The envoy sneered. How dare this young girl who came out of nowhere say such things? Do it. As he said that, he waved his sleeves coldly. However, just as he said that, Luo Qingtong's figure flashed and instantly broke through the defenses of the people around him and appeared in front of him. You want me to take it myself? Luo Qingtong's face was indifferent and her eyes were full of mischief. All right, I'll show it to you. This group of people from the Empire of Qin dynasty was not weak. Luo Qingtong did not want to waste time with them. She activated her pupil technique and broke through to the front of the envoy. She raised her hand and grabbed the decree in his hand. Humph. Silly girl, you don't know your place. The envoy from the Great Qin sacred dynasty was shocked that someone had broken through the defenses of his subordinates. But soon, he began to laugh coldly. Luo Qingtong actually dared to take the decree in his hand. She was trying to take away the decree of the Great Qin sacred dynasty by force. Was this girl crazy? It would be strange if she didn't die from the pressure of the empire's destiny. However, just as the envoy from the Great Qin sacred dynasty was thinking about this, his face was instantly filled with shock. He looked at the scene in front of him in shock. Luo Qingtong's hand grabbed the decree in his hand tightly and held it in her hand. This is impossible. The envoy from the Empire of Qin dynasty was shocked when he saw that Luo Qingtong was not sent flying by the pressure of the empire's destiny. In the next second, he came back to his senses and was about to rush forward and take back the decree. However, scram! Luo Qingtong held the decree of the Great Qin Sacred Dynasty and scolded him coldly. Bang! 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 In an instant, the decree in Luo Qingtong's hand shone brightly and sent the envoy from the Empire of Qin Dynasty flying. Chapter 809. Who was Luo Qingtong? Princess Xingning of the Great Chu Dynasty, a saint-conferred title, a half-emperor. With the decree of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty in her hand, those envoys of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty had to bow their heads to her, no matter how strong they were. They wanted to snatch the decree of the Empire of Qin's holy dynasty from her hands, which meant that they were going against their superiors. Naturally, they would be suppressed by the imperial decree of the Empire of Qin. These people wanted to use the imperial decree to suppress Luo Qingtong, but they didn't expect that Luo Qingtong's status was much higher than theirs. Using the imperial decree of the Empire of Qin's imperial decree as a counterattack, the group of martial emperors were severely injured. That's impossible. The envoy from the Empire of Qin looked at Luo Qingtong with horror in his eyes. Who are you? How could he snatch the decree from his hands and use the pressure of the nation's fate to strike back at him? One had to know that only those with a higher status than him would be able to do this. What was going on? Who was the other party? Grandfather Ling and the others also looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise and shock. Especially Grandfather Ling. He thought that Luo Qingtong had to reveal her identity to stop the people from the Empire of Qin Dynasty. This would make the other party hesitate in taking action. However, he did not expect that Luo Qingtong would snatch the decree of the Empire of Qin Dynasty from the other party's hands. How did Miss Qingtong do it? As for Chiu Manling, who had previously looked down on Luo Qingtong, she was dumbfounded at this scene. Didn't they say that she was just a daughter of a marquis from an inferior country? How could he be so powerful? Was the decree of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty so easily taken away? How could this be something that an inferior marquis's daughter could do? Recalling the disdainful words she had said to the other party, Chiu Manling's expression became even more interesting than when she was humiliated by the envoys of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty. It was a sea of red and white, green and purple. After a brief moment of shock, the envoy of the Empire of Qin Dynasty came back to his senses. He looked at the Ling family and Luo Qingtong with indescribable anger. Good. Very good. No wonder the Ling family dared to look down on us and ignore the decree of the Empire of Qin Dynasty. It turns out that you know an expert and want to seize it by force. The envoy from the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty was indescribably angry. They were all injured by Luo Qingtong's decree. As the saying goes, not only did you fail to suppress others, you were suppressed instead. Originally, they had planned to humiliate and teach the Ling family a lesson. While completing the mission given by their family, they also wanted to curry favor with Yuan Ma. They didn't expect that they would be taught a lesson instead. However, did the Ling family think that this was enough? They wanted to seize the decree of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty. The Ling family was courting death. As for this young girl, he didn't care who she was. Since he dared to steal the decree of the Great Qin's Sacred Dynasty, he had a reason to mobilize the guards of the Great Qin's Sacred Dynasty who came with him to escort the decree and kill him. Thinking of this, the envoy of the Empire of Qin instantly released the signal in his hand. Whoosh! Outside the Tianyu Palace, a group of guards from the Great Qin's Sacred Dynasty, who were made up entirely of martial spirit realm cultivators, suddenly unleashed their auras and charged into the Tianyu Palace. Their duty was to protect the decree and safely deliver it to the Tianyu Imperial Palace. Chapter 810. Miss Qingtong. Sensing the terrifying aura coming from the outside, Grandfather Ling and the rest of the elders' faces changed. The group of experts outside was too powerful. Unless Luo Qingtong invited the people from the Black Field to help, they wouldn't be able to stop them. However, the main city of the Black Field in the Tianyu Empire was quite a distance away. Even if Luo Qingtong called them over, they wouldn't be able to arrive so quickly. Miss Qingtong, we'll risk our lives to escort you out. Please leave. Grandfather Ling gritted his teeth. No matter what, Luo Qingtong couldn't be harmed in the Ling family. Otherwise, no one would be able to bear the wrath of the Black Field. And the people of the Great Qin sacred dynasty in front of them had already decided to kill them. Under such circumstances, even if they exposed Luo Qingtong's identity, the other party wouldn't believe them. Under such circumstances, only by risking their lives to escort Luo Qingtong out would the Ling family have a chance to take revenge. Fortunately, Tianhan and Yu were still in the sacred court, leaving behind a trace of the Ling family's bloodline. With that in mind, Grandfather Ling was ready to risk his life to escort Luo Qingtong out of here. As long as they could leave the Tianyu Imperial Palace and enter the Lanhua family, they would be safe. These people from the Empire of Qin wouldn't dare to enter the Lanhua family's residence to cause trouble. While Grandfather Ling was thinking, Grand Tutor Jiang, who was chatting happily with Grandfather Lanhua in the Lanhua clan, suddenly frowned when he sensed the signal from Tianyu Palace. What's going on? Someone dares to seize the imperial decree by force? The person who could seize the imperial decree and ignore the imperial aura was definitely not weak. Grand Tutor Jiang frowned. It was fine if he didn't know about this. But since he knew, he couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Thinking of this, he bid farewell to Grandfather Lanhua and headed to the Tianyu Imperial Palace to investigate. If he was not mistaken, this should be the team sent by the Empire of Qin dynasty to the Ling family to deliver the decree of succession. Was there someone targeting them? Elder Lanhua also sensed the many powerful auras erupting from Sky Universe Imperial City. So many martial spirit realm experts. He frowned and immediately thought of the people from the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty. Thinking of the relationship between Luo Qingtong and the Ling family, he immediately prepared to make a trip there. Let's see what's going on. Grand Tutor Jiang also had the same idea. The group immediately flew towards Sky Universe Imperial Palace. In Tianyu Imperial Palace, Luo Qingtong looked indifferently at the group of guards from the Empire of Qin who had rushed in and said to Grandfather Ling, "All of you, back off." Above the martial spirit realm was the half-saint realm. After comprehending and completely controlling the laws of heaven and earth, one could directly enter the saint realm. Once the two sides started fighting, these people from the Ling family would only be cannon fodder. As for what Grandfather Ling said about resisting with all his might to let her leave, that was just wishful thinking. A martial spirit realm expert, or a group of martial spirit realm experts at that, how could the people of the Ling family block them? However, Luo Qingtong had the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty in her hands, so she wasn't afraid of these people. If others snatched the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, they wouldn't be able to trigger the pressure of the nation's fate on it. However, Luo Qingtong was different. She was a sacred princess with the title of sacred. In her hands, the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty was her protective talisman. The pressure of the nation's fate on it would definitely protect her dignity as a sacred princess and not allow anyone to violate her. It had nothing to do with which country's sacred princess she was. Chapter 8:11. The envoys from the Empire of Qin would never have thought of this. How could they have known that they would run into Luo Qingtong, the saintly princess, when they came to the Ling family? Luo Qingtong's title as the saintly princess was only known to a few high-ranking officials. People like them had no right to know about it. Rumble. As the guards of the Great Qin sacred dynasty stepped through the air, Luo Qingtong's eyes hardened and she leaped into the air. Miss Qingtong. Seeing that Luo Qingtong was about to face the martial spirit realm experts, Master Ling became anxious. He could not allow anything to happen to Luo Qingtong. Right at this time, he suddenly saw Old Man Lanhua's figure flying over from not far away. He was immediately overjoyed and hurriedly called out, "Old Man Lanhua, quick! Come and stop this. The people from the Empire of Qin are going to harm Miss Qingtong." He could not reveal Luo Qingtong's identity in front of so many people. Fortunately, Master Lanue also knew that Luo Qingtong was the evil Dr. Ghostai, so there was no need to hide it. What? Master Lanue had only come to see why the Ling family was having a conflict with the people from the Empire of Qin. Master Lanue was shocked when he heard Master Ling's words. Who else could be called Miss Qingtong? It was Luo Qingtong. At the front, the envoys who had summoned the elite guards of the Great Qin sacred dynasty to escort the edict heard Old Master Ling asking Old Master Lan Yu for help, and they all laughed coldly. Humph. You want to ask for help? You probably don't know what kind of crime it is to seize a decree by force. Let me tell you, no matter who comes today, this girl will die. Not only that, but your Ling family will also be exterminated. When the other families rise to power, the memorial tablets of the Tianyu imperial family will also be moved into the heavenly temple. The envoy sneered, this is the consequence of the Ling family's stubbornness. Before he could finish his words, the martial spirit realm experts who had surrounded Luo Qingtong were all sent flying by the pressure of the Empire of Qin's Empire. What? Seeing this, the proud voice of the envoy from the Empire of Qin was stuck in his throat. Luo Qingtong had sent so many of them flying, so it was still acceptable. But now, she was facing the elite guards from the Empire of Qin's empire. Although these experts were only in the martial spirit realm, they could easily kill an ordinary sage realm expert. He was actually forced back by the other party. How strong was this girl? Could it be that she had already surpassed the saint realm at such a young age? That was impossible. How could there be such a terrifying genius in the world? Even if there was, it was impossible for her to appear in such a small empire like the Tianyu Empire. Not to mention in such an inconspicuous family like the Ling family. If there was such a powerful expert in the Ling family, they wouldn't have to rely on the evil Dr. Ghostai to get the throne. As the crowd thought this, their faces were filled with shock and bewilderment as they looked at the peerless beauty standing proudly with the Great Qin's decree in her hand. As for the disciples of the Ling family, their faces were filled with shock as they covered their mouths tightly, suppressing the cries of surprise that were coming out of their mouths. This was too terrifying. Luo Qingtong was so powerful. A group of martial spirit realm experts. Chapter 8:12. Xiao Manling, on the other hand, was in a daze. She had even forgotten her shame and humiliation. Luo Qingtong's power was beyond her imagination. Even the children of the Blue Moon Commandery's royal family could not compare to such a charming young lady, let alone her. Was such a person really the legitimate daughter of a marquis from a low-level country? How could this be? How could this be? Xiao Manling screamed in her heart. However, no matter how much she screamed, she could not change the fact in front of her. You! The envoy from the Empire of Qin was completely shocked. However, he quickly regained his composure and gritted his teeth. Don't be so smug. Tell me your name if you dare. Don't think you can be arrogant just because you have some strength. What you stole was the decree of the sacred dynasty. If you know what's good for you, surrender immediately. Otherwise, when the army of the sacred dynasty mobilizes, you won't be able to escape death. The dignity of the sacred dynasty is inviolable. Is that so? You also know that the dignity of the sacred dynasty is inviolable? As soon as the envoy finished speaking, Grand Tutor Zhang's voice suddenly rang out from the other side. He looked at the young lady standing proudly in the middle of the field, his face full of admiration. Luo family's Qing Tong was indeed worthy of her reputation. He did not expect to see her here. When Luo Qingtong used the power of the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty to suppress the elite guards of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, Grand Tutor Jiang had already guessed her identity. What's more, Grandfather Ling's words were so loud just now. Miss Qingtong. She had the name of Qingtong and could use the power of the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty. Who else could it be other than the legitimate daughter of the Luo family, Luo Qingtong, who had been conferred the title of Princess of the Great Chu's sacred dynasty? He had more or less guessed the ins and outs of the matter from the envoy's words and was immediately furious. Who? The envoy from the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty was about to shout at who dared to interrupt him. However, when he turned around and saw Grand Tutor Jiang, his eyes instantly popped out. Jiang! 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 He looked at the old man who appeared in front of him in shock. What shocked him even more was the other side of the old man. The side of the old man's side. Who was dressed in ordinary clothes? Crown Prince. The envoy looked like he was about to faint. Grand Tutor Jiang and the Crown Prince. How could these two gods appear in the small capital of the Tianyu Empire? However, the envoy could not be bothered to think of the matter. He looked at Grand Tutor Jiang and hurriedly said, "Grand Tutor, listen to me. The Ling family of the Tianyu Empire is so arrogant and disrespectful to us. This girl even snatched the decree of the sacred dynasty that we brought with us. Grand Tutor, the dignity of the holy dynasty cannot be violated. That is, A. B." The envoy was drenched in cold sweat. He did not dare to expose the identity of the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin, so he could only start with Grand Tutor Jiang. "You!" Old Master Ling was indignant when he saw the envoy distorting the truth and framing them. However, he was stopped by Old Master Lanue. Old Master Lanue shook his head at him and told him to just watch the show. Master Lanue knew the reason why Grand Tutor Jiang had come here. He had come here for Luo Qingtong. Now, the main character was right in front of him. Chapter 8:13. Oh. You said that they were disrespectful to you, and this young girl even tried to steal the decree of the Empire of Qin? Grand Tutor Jiang said slowly as he looked at the envoy with a cold expression. That's right. Grand Tutor, they are too audacious. They have no respect for the dynasty at all. Hearing the hidden coldness in his words, the envoy hurriedly chimed in. While he heaved a sigh of relief, he also felt extremely proud. If he could complete the mission given by his family and get to know Grand Tutor Jiang and the Crown Prince, that would be great. Especially since the Crown Prince was out on a tour, it was the perfect time for them to get close to him. Such an opportunity might not come again in the future. Thinking of this, the envoy's expression became even more indignant. Grand Tutor, such people should be punished severely. Grand Tutor Jiang, please take action and arrest them with your supreme power. Since Grand Tutor Jiang was an important minister of the Empire of Qin and the Crown Prince's Grand Tutor, his strength was naturally not weak. Otherwise, how could he bear the respect of others? His strength was also above the Saint Realm, almost beyond the scope of the Saint Realm. Even in the Empire of Qin, he was one of the few powerhouses who could be compared to him. The envoy asked him to take action for two reasons. First, he complimented his strength. Second, he wanted to vent his anger and make Luo Qingtong unable to escape. So what if the other party's strength was tyrannical and could ignore the suppression of the dynasty's fate on the decree? If Grand Tutor Jiang were to make a move, he would be able to easily take back the decree and even beat her to the bottom of the valley. When that time came, he wanted this young girl and the Ling family to regret what they had just done. Old Master Lanue. Hearing his words, Old Master Ling's heart clenched and he could not hold it in any longer. He did not know why Old Master Lanue was still unwilling to speak. The person standing opposite him was Luo Qingtong. The evil physician Ghost Eye. She was in trouble. What should he do? The wrath of the Blackfield's underworld venerable would definitely burn the heavens. However, just as he was panicking, he heard a loud bang. The envoy was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Then, he landed heavily on the ground. Then came Grand Tutor Jiang's furious voice. Arrest? Don't say that Miss Luo was just being disrespectful to you. Even if she wants to humiliate you and kill you, you can only accept it. Seizing the sacred dynasty's decree? Could it be that the decree was not given to the Ling family by the sacred dynasty? Grand Tutor Jiang's face was filled with anger. Who was Luo Qingtong? Even important ministers like them had to be courteous in front of the great Chu's sacred princess. Now, these people dared to be impudent in front of the other party and even dared to make a false accusation in front of him. He must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. Grand Tutor? The envoy was stunned by Grand Tutor Jiang's slap. He spat out blood as he looked at Grand Tutor Jiang and the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin in confusion. What was going on? Shouldn't Grand Tutor Jiang protect them and the dignity of the Empire of Qin? Why did he slap his own face in front of outsiders? One had to know that they were representing the Holy Dynasty to deliver the imperial edict. The envoy was dumbfounded. He was also certain that Grand Tutor Jiang would help him and the others. That was why he was the first to complain. They were here to represent the face of the Holy Dynasty. Chapter 8:14. Wait. Who was the eldest daughter of the Luo clan? Could it be the girl in front of him? Just as the envoy was thinking, he saw Grand Tutor Jiang. He was a senior official of 3 dynasties and was one of the few experts in the Empire of Qin. He stepped forward and bowed to Luo Qintong. Miss Qintong, I'm sorry to have startled you. I will punish this group of people severely and investigate this matter thoroughly. I will give you and the Ling clan an explanation. Grand Tutor Jiang did not call out Luo Qintong's name. Very few people knew about this matter. It was a secret of the Chu sacred dynasty, so there was no need to spread it in front of others. However, Luo Qingtong's prestige as the Chu sacred princess was not to be underestimated. In the entire Chu sacred dynasty, Empress Dowager Yan Shi and that transcendent saint of the Chu imperial family were her backing. Insulting Luo Qintong was equivalent to insulting the Chu sacred dynasty. What? Seeing Grand Tutor Jiang's actions, everyone present was stunned. The envoy stopped vomiting blood. He looked at the scene in front of him with a shocked and ashen face. He did not know who Luo Qintong was and what kind of strength she had to be able to make Grand Tutor Jiang treat her with such respect and reverence. After all, this was Grand Tutor Jiang, the Crown Prince's Grand Tutor, an important official of 3 dynasties and one of the rare experts of the Chu sacred dynasty. Everyone from the Ling family was completely dumbfounded. Although they did not know Grand Tutor Jiang's identity, they heard the envoy call him Grand Tutor Jiang with such respect and flattery. How could they not know that he was a super expert from the Empire of Qin? He had a high position and power. But now, this person that even the envoy had to treat with respect was bowing deeply to Luo Qintong and asking for forgiveness. He even said that he would give her and the Ling clan an explanation. The peerless expert and important official of the Empire of Qin said that he would give them an explanation. Qiu Manling's face had already turned ghastly pale. Others might not know who Grand Tutor Jiang was, but how could she not know? An elder of 3 dynasties, an important minister of the Holy Dynasty. Even the Commandery Prince of Blue Moon Commandery had to treat Grand Tutor Jiang as a nephew. He had to be respectful and did not dare to neglect him. Not to mention the Qiu family. For example, her father, the head of the Qiu family, didn't even have the qualifications to meet Grand Tutor Jiang. But now, he was respectfully bowing in front of Luo Qintong. His attitude was extremely cautious, as if he was facing an emperor. Oh my God! Luo Qintong, what was her identity? Old Master Ling was also completely stunned. Why would Grand Tutor Jiang be so courteous? He even apologized to Luo Qintong. Could it be that he also knew Luo Qingtong's true identity, evil Dr. Ghost Eye? But even if it was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, he shouldn't have been able to make this old man, who was obviously an important minister of the Holy Dynasty, bow so respectfully and protect him, right? Unless it was the underworld venerable himself. Grandfather Ling didn't know Luo Qingtong's identity. She was now the holy conferred princess of Great Chu. In terms of status, Grand Tutor Jiang indeed had to bow before her. Luo Qintong looked at Grand Tutor Jiang indifferently and didn't say a word. At this moment, the elegant young man standing behind her spoke. Don't worry, Miss Qintong. This matter will be thoroughly investigated. As an elder of 3 dynasties, Grand Tutor Jiang will definitely not let you be neglected. Anyone who insults the holy conferred princess will die. Not only that, the family behind her will not be spared either. Chapter 8:15. If Grand Tutor Jiang said that there was still room for negotiation. If the crown prince said so, then they were really finished. Not only were they finished, but their families were also finished. Oh my God. Just because of Yuan Ma's words, just to please him, what did they do wrong? Who did they offend this time? This young girl, even His Highness the Crown Prince's attitude towards her was so good. The envoy, who thought that Grand Tutor Jiang was just standing up for his old friend, rolled his eyes and fainted. As for Luo Qingtong, she finally nodded after receiving the other party's promise. She handed the decree in her hand to the eldest son of the Ling family, Ling Tianhan and Ling Yu's father. Uncle Ling, go ahead and make the arrangements. With this decree, the Ling family would be justified in inheriting the throne of the Tianyu Empire. All right. Marquis Ling was stunned, but he quickly regained his senses and took the decree in front of Grand Tutor Jiang and the others. He was still rejoicing in his heart. If not for Luo Qingtong, the Ling family would have been in deep trouble. They had thought wrongly before, thinking that with the evil Dr. Ghost Eye behind them, the Empire of Qin would allow them to inherit the throne. They had guessed correctly, but they did not expect that the King of Hell would be easier to deal with than the little demons. The Empire of Qin would not stop them from inheriting the throne of the Tianyu Empire, but the envoy who came to deliver the decree could do something. As long as they were accused of being disrespectful to the Empire of Qin, they could be eradicated in minutes. This way, even if Luo Qingtong pursued the matter, they could find a few scapegoats. It was too scary. Marquis Ling's forehead was covered in cold sweat when he thought of the dangerous situation just now. Their Ling family had almost been humiliated to death, and their entire family had been wiped out. It was all thanks to Miss Qingtong. He was drenched in cold sweat as he took the decree with him and prepared to leave. Just at this moment, the young man behind Grand Tutor Jiang suddenly said, "Wait." Marquis Ling and everyone else's eyes narrowed. His heart skipped a beat as he looked at the young man who had suddenly stepped forward. He didn't know what the other party wanted to do. The latter looked at him with a smile and turned to Grand Tutor Jiang. "Grand Tutor, is the Tianyu Empire about to be promoted to a commandery?" As soon as he said that, everyone in the Ling family was surprised and happy at the same time. This young man's words, what did he mean? They looked at each other in disbelief. The young man said to Grand Tutor Jiang with a smile, "Since the Tianyu Empire is about to be promoted to a commandery, why don't you give them a hand?" Recommending them to the sacred dynasty as commanderies can be considered as an apology for this matter. When the young man said this, everyone in the Ling family was so surprised that they almost fainted. In order for an empire to be promoted to a commandery, it would have to have a Saint Realm expert on its side and be conferred a title by the sacred dynasty. Either that, or there was a Saint Realm expert from the Holy Dynasty as a guide, and the other party's status couldn't be low. But now, this young man wanted Grand Tutor Jiang to recommend him to the Tianyu Empire. Once the other party agreed, the Tianyu Empire would be promoted to a Holy Dynasty commandery. Chapter 8:16. This was a great gift. Previously, the royal family of Tianyu had schemed to control Luo Qingtong and use her for their own purposes so that they could be promoted to a commandery. Now, this opportunity was right in front of the Ling family. Okay. Grand Tutor Jiang was stunned for a moment before he realized that the crown prince wanted to compensate Luo Qingtong and the Ling family. He immediately agreed. Hearing this, the Ling family was indescribably happy. The royal family of Tianyu had schemed to promote to a commandery, but they had achieved it so easily. Grandfather Ling looked at Luo Qingtong excitedly. He was more farsighted than the other members of the Ling family. Why would Grand Tutor Jiang help them? Of course, it was because of Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, the Ling family would be insignificant compared to the Holy Dynasty. Just look at how arrogant the envoy was when he came to announce the edict. Their Ling family was nothing in the Holy Dynasty. Any small family could easily bully them. But now, the Ling family was going to be promoted to a commandery. Even if it was the lowest level commandery, it was because of Luo Qingtong's kindness. Otherwise, how could they be promoted to a commandery on their own? Looking at the 1,000 years of history of the royal family of Tianyu, it was clear how difficult it was to be promoted to a commandery. Without social connections and power, it was impossible to achieve. However, Qiu Manling was stupefied. She still couldn't believe what was happening in front of her. It was as unbelievable as the Arabian Nights. Just a moment ago, she was arrogant and superior in front of the Ling family. She was also superior to Luo Qingtong. But now, the Ling family had become the royal family of the Holy Dynasty Commandery. Moreover, they were the disciples of Grand Tutor Jiang. Based on this point alone, even if the Tianyu Empire was promoted to the lowest level commandery, its status was much higher than that of a marquis-level commandery. And Blue Moon Commandery was only a king-level commandery. The Qiu family had to bow and scrape in front of the Ling family. And all this, it was all brought by Luo Qingtong. She had just humiliated this girl in the main hall and questioned her status. How dare she pester the Ling family? Qiu Manling raised her head and looked at the young lady standing on the square. Her expression was indifferent from the start, and her figure was like a beautiful flame that illuminated the surroundings. Qiu Manling's eyes rolled back, and she finally fainted. Before she fainted, she heard a low muffled voice coming from beside her. Oh my God! Just now, Luo Qingtong gave us pills. When the group of Ling family youths saw Luo Qingtong standing in the square, someone suddenly recalled the jade bottle that the latter had given them previously and took it out immediately. After taking a look, they all suppressed their emotions and exclaimed in a low voice. It's an elixir that's... Oh my God! With this pill, my strength will be able to increase a little. Yes. Me too. I've been stuck at the Martial General realm for a long time, but now I should be able to use the power of this pill to break through. The group of people exclaimed in low voices. Hearing these voices, Qiu Manling thought of the jade bottles that she had dismissed as trash. What was inside was actually an elixir. And they were elixirs that could purify one's talent and enhance one's physique. Chapter 8:17. After dealing with the envoys, Luo Qingtong, Elder Lanue, Grand Tutor Jiang, and the others returned to the main hall of Tianyu Imperial Palace. Elder Ling didn't dare to disturb them, so he asked someone to bring in the tea. Even he didn't enter the hall. It wasn't a place he could stay. Princess Xingning, you're really different from the rest. Grand Tutor Jiang stroked his beard and smiled. I went to the Luo clan to deliver the gifts from the sacred dynasty. I thought I wouldn't have the chance to meet you. I didn't expect you to come back and meet me here. There were no outsiders here, so Grand Tutor Jiang naturally called Luo Qingtong by her title. Ahem. Luo Qingtong coughed softly. If she hadn't tricked Yi Qianxian, she would still be in Chu, in the Black Field. There were plenty of ingredients for refining medicine there. Why would she need to come to the Tianyu Empire to borrow them? But it just so happened that she came back. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know if the Ling clan was humiliated or destroyed. How would she explain it to Ling Tianhan and Ling Yu? After all, it was because of her that the Ling clan and the Tianyu Imperial Palace had such a grudge. With that thought, Luo Qingtong's eyes sharpened. I hope Grand Tutor Jiang can give me a perfect explanation for this. I want to know who's behind the envoys, who's behind them, and who's related to them. You and Mo better not have anything to do with this. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She had thought that since he didn't know about the Tianyu Imperial Palace's persecution of the Luo clan, she would let it go. But if he insisted on avenging the Tianyu Imperial Palace, then don't blame her for completely eliminating him. Don't worry, Princess Xingning. I'll get to the bottom of this. Grand Tutor Jiang said. Then he turned to the young man beside him. Your Highness, what do you think? Of course. How dare you use the name of the Holy Dynasty to commit such atrocities? Such behavior should be severely punished. The young man's face was indifferent. In his words, he didn't say that he wanted to stand up for Luo Qingtong, but the meaning behind his words was clear. These words were extremely clever. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but look at the other party a few more times. Your Highness. Luo Qingtong had guessed that the other party's identity was unusual when he said that he wanted Grand Tutor Jiang to recommend the Tianyu Empire to become the Holy Dynasty commandery. Now, according to Grand Tutor Jiang's words, the other party was actually a member of the royal family of the Sacred Dynasty. To be able to make Grand Tutor Jiang, an elder who had served 3 emperors, address him as Your Highness and act so respectfully, a name suddenly popped into Luo Qingtong's mind: Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin. Sure enough, the other party nodded at her and then said with a smile, Ma Chenyi, Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin. The young man's words were very casual and amiable. Although he introduced himself as the Crown Prince, there was no sense of arrogance. On the contrary, it made people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze and very comfortable. Luo Qingtong looked at the young man in surprise. She didn't expect him to really be the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin. Old Master Lanue was also very surprised. He didn't expect the elegant young man beside Grand Tutor Jiang to be the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin. It was said that the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin was elegant and gentlemanly. Now it seemed that it was true. Chapter 8:18. I came out with the Grand Tutor to relax. I didn't expect to meet Princess Xingning here. I'm really lucky. Ma Chenyi smiled. He really didn't expect to meet Luo Qingtong here. Logically speaking, she should be in Great Chu now. This encounter was truly a coincidence. Luo Qingtong also smiled. Yes, it's really a coincidence. She just wanted to congratulate the Ling family and take some herbs to refine medicine. Otherwise, she would have returned to Great Chu long ago. She wouldn't have met him here. Just as they were chatting, Grandfather Ling walked in respectfully from outside. Miss Qingtong, these are the herbs you asked for. After Old Master Ling left, he immediately swept through the entire Tianyu royal family and the Ling family's treasures. He sent over all the medicinal herbs that Luo Qingtong needed and could use. Luo Qingtong was the savior of the Ling family this time. If not for Luo Qingtong, the Ling family would have met with disaster. No matter what Luo Qingtong wanted, it wouldn't be too much. Furthermore, she only wanted some herbs. Moreover, Grandfather Ling had just heard about Luo Qingtong's gift from the younger generation. He immediately felt grateful to Luo Qingtong. Perhaps from Luo Qingtong's point of view, she saved the Ling family because of her responsibility. After all, the Ling family only rose to power because she wanted to go against the Tianyu imperial family. That was why they were targeted by UNMO and suffered today's disaster. However, Grandfather Ling could see it clearly. Since the Ling family had such ambitions, they deserved to suffer such a calamity. Otherwise, they could have rejected Luo Qingtong's invitation to go against the Tianyu imperial family. Therefore, Luo Qingtong saved them out of morality and kindness. This was a huge favor to the Ling family. Grandfather Ling had already made up his mind. After this incident, he would immediately write a letter to Ling Tianhan and Ling Yu, telling them to follow Luo Qingtong's orders regardless of life or death. The Ling family swore to follow Miss Qingtong to death. Princess Xingning needs herbs. Seeing the herbs that Grandfather Ling sent over, Grand Tutor Jiang was slightly surprised. Then, he quickly said, I forgot about this. This is the Sacred Dynasty's gift to Your Highness, to congratulate Your Highness on becoming the Sacred Princess of the Great Chu. He took out a spatial storage ring as he spoke. Under Grandfather Ling's shocked gaze, he handed the spatial ring to Luo Qingtong. There are all kinds of rare herbs and resources inside, maybe they can help you. At the same time, this spatial artifact is a token of the Empire of Qin. When Grand Tutor Jiang said this, he couldn't help but look a little proud. A Sumeru spatial spirit tool was extremely rare and precious within the true Spill continent. Among the 4 great Holy Dynasty, the Empire Holy Dynasty was able to produce spatial artifacts. Although it was quite different from the Sumer spatial spirit tools that had been passed down since ancient times, and the space of the spirit tools was extremely small, only 1 to 2 to 3 square meters. But it was enough for them to be proud. After all, if others wanted such a storage artifact, they could only come to the Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty. Spatial artifact? Grandfather Lanue was surprised. Is this the masterpiece of your Holy Dynasty's Grand Master Me? Seeing Grand Tutor Jiang nod, he immediately understood. Chapter 8:19. If this was a Sumer spatial spiritual artifact, it was no wonder that the people of the Empire of Qin were so generous as to give it to Luo Qingtong. This would not only give them face, but also show the power of the Empire of Qin. But the people of the Empire of Qin probably didn't expect Luo Qingtong to be the evil Dr. Ghost Eye of the Black Field. With how much the Black Field and Ming Zun value her, how could she not have a Sumer spatial spiritual artifact? Old Master Lanue thought to himself. However, even if Luo Qingtong had a Sumer spatial spiritual artifact, it didn't mean that the people around her had one as well. The Empire of Qin was still very smart. While Elder Yan Yu was thinking about this, Elder Ling, who was next to him, was already stunned by what he had heard. Princess Xingming? Luo Qingtong was actually Princess Xingming? The one who had caused a stir recently and had already spread throughout the 4 great sacred dynasties, the one who had defeated Great Yong's first princess, Princess Feng Wan, and was personally conferred the title of Princess Xingming by the Transcendent Saint of Great Chu. My God! No wonder Luo Qingtong wasn't afraid of the envoys from the Empire of Qin at all. She didn't even reveal her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, yet those envoys and the Empire of Qin's elite guards were already helpless against her. No wonder Grand Tutor Jiang was so polite and respectful to her. It turned out that Luo Qingtong was Princess Xingming. Master Ling's mouth was wide open. Just as his eyes widened and he didn't know what to say, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and took the Sumer spatial spiritual artifact. Then, she smiled. She used her spiritual energy to investigate the inside and found that this was a Sumer spatial spiritual artifact. It was just a fake Sumer spatial spiritual artifact. That's right, it couldn't even be considered a fake Sumer spatial spiritual artifact. It could only be called a fake Sumer spatial spiritual artifact. This Sumer spatial spirit artifact used a special type of spatial spirit stone to open up a space inside using refining methods. The space opened in this way also had the effect of storing things, but it was very unstable. After being opened and closed for a period of time, the space inside would easily collapse, and the things inside would be lost. It was on a completely different level from the Sumer spatial spirit tool, refined by the inscription masters. However, this was still a good storage method, if one ignored the space factor that could easily collapse. Luo Qingtong thought about it, and her spirit imprinted a circle in it, stabilizing the space. She tossed the contents into her own useless ring, before handing the Sumer spatial spiritual tool to Grandfather Ling, who was standing beside her, and said, "All right. Grandpa Ling, I'm sorry for what happened today. I haven't given you a gift for the succession of the Ling family. Now that the Tianyu Empire has become a commandery, this space spiritual device is a gift for you." Luo Qingtong accepted the elixir prepared by Grandfather Ling and was prepared to express her gratitude. The Sumer spatial spiritual device given by the Holy Dynasty of the Empire of Qin was a good gift for her. With Luo Qingtong's current inscription skills, she could easily carve and refine a space storage ring of more than 10 square meters. However, this Sumer spatial spiritual device given by the Holy Dynasty of the Empire of Qin had a different meaning. With this Sumer spatial spiritual artifact, the Ling family would not be so helpless when envoys bullied them in the future. What Luo Qingtong gave Old Master Ling was not so much a space ring. Chapter 8:20. Grand Tutor Jiang and the others could see the meaning behind Luo Qingtong's actions, and their opinion of the Ling family increased. To be able to receive Luo Qingtong's protection, the Ling family's misfortune this time was a blessing in disguise. When Grandfather Ling received the Sumer spatial artifact from Luo Qingtong, he was completely stupefied. Then, he quickly reacted and hurriedly knelt down before Luo Qingtong. He felt that the luckiest thing that had happened to his family in this lifetime was meeting Luo Qingtong and receiving her protection and support. Thank you, Miss Qingtong. From now on, our Ling family will follow Miss Qingtong without hesitation, even if it means death. We will share honor and disgrace, life and death. He knelt on the ground and swore to Luo Qingtong. The reason why they didn't use the title of Princess Xingning previously was that regardless of whether Luo Qingtong was Princess Xingning or not, they would still follow her to death. Grandfather Ling, quickly get up. Luo Qingtong helped him up. The latter's eyes were brimming with tears. After bidding farewell to Grand Tutor Jiang and the others, he hurriedly left the main hall. He knew what he was doing. There were some things that he might not be able to hear. Moreover, he still had to go back and inform the entire family of his loyalty to Luo Qingtong. Xiao Manling's incident could not happen again. Their Ling family definitely could not be disrespectful to Luo Qingtong. If such a situation happened again, they would be directly crippled and expelled from the family. Their Ling family did not have such a descendant. If the other party was not convinced and felt that they were not part of the Ling family, fine. Don't ever visit our Ling family again. From now on, they would sever all ties and have nothing to do with each other. Thinking this, Grandfather Ling's expression was very cold. Princess Xingning is really clear about gratitude and grudges. She knows how to repay kindness. Ma Chenyi had been watching from the side, his eyes serene. After Grandfather Ling left, he slowly said, I heard that Princess obtained the corpse of Great Yang's 7th prince. Furthermore, she has already extracted the power of bloodline and fate from it. I have a spiritual herb here called the 7-leaf blood refining lotus. It has an excellent effect on improving bloodline compatibility and fusion. Take it as a congratulatory gift from me to the princess. As he spoke, he took out a jade box from his bosom. The nearly transparent lid of the jade box reflected a blood-red, fiery spirit lotus. The leaves on it were like fire and blood, looking extremely beautiful and gorgeous. At first glance, one could tell that it was not an ordinary spirit medicine. Heaven-rank spirit medicine. Old Master Yan Yu exclaimed. This gift from the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin was extraordinarily valuable. However, what Luo Qingtong paid attention to was not the grade of the medicine, but the effect of the medicine. It could promote bloodline fusion and increase compatibility. If it was used to refine pills for grandfather, wouldn't it be better and faster for grandfather to absorb the power of bloodline and fate from Great Yang's 7th prince? Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up. Good. Then I thank your highness the crown prince for his gift. Luo Qingtong could find heaven-rank herbs if she wanted, but this heaven-rank herb that could promote bloodline fusion and increase compatibility was not something that Luo Qingtong could find immediately. Ma Chenyi's gift could be said to have reached the bottom of her heart. Many thanks, your highness the crown prince. It's fine. I also have a method on how to better absorb and fuse bloodline power. If the princess needs it, you can take it as well. Ma Chenyi smiled as he took out another item in his hand. He was originally a descendant of the Empire of Qin's imperial family, and he was also an outstanding talent. Chapter 8:21. He had already delivered the item to her. How could Luo Qingtong not want it? She put away the 7-leaf blood refining lotus and the technique, then looked at him meaningfully. Your highness, I'll remember this favor. I'll definitely repay it in the future. For Luo Qingtong, she didn't deserve it. Although it was Ma Chenyi who gave it to her, Luo Qingtong still owed him a favor by accepting it. She would definitely find a chance to repay it in the future. Ma Chenyi smiled but didn't say anything. After Luo Qingtong left Tianyu imperial capital with the things and Elder Lanyue also left, Grand Tutor Jiang looked at Ma Chenyi with a worried expression. Your highness, these two things, the bloodline refinement technique aside, it was something all descendants of the imperial family who inherited the bloodline had. However, the crown prince had spent a lot of effort to obtain the 7-leaf blood refining lotus. For this reason, he had expended a lot of effort and lost a lot of experts to obtain this 7-leaf blood refining lotus. Your Highness, that 7-leaf blood refining lotus is extremely important to you. Before Grand Tutor Jiang could finish, Ma Chenyi stopped him. It's fine. I know my own situation very well. Even if I really bring the 7-leaf blood refining lotus to the Black Domain and find the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, I might not be able to last for long. Ma Chenyi lowered his head as he spoke. Through a technique unique to the imperial family of the Empire of Qin, he saw the dragon-shaped providence in his body lying there on the verge of death. Its 2 horns were broken and its 5 claws were useless. It was a sign of death. A dying dragon. As the crown prince of the great Qin Empire, the dragon-shaped destiny that appeared from the power of Mo Chenyi's bloodline actually showed signs of dying. Black lines twined around the dragon-shaped providence, polluting and extracting the power of providence within. The dragon-shaped providence wailed, and its power of providence became thinner and thinner. When this dragon-shaped luck completely fell, it would be the time when Mo Chenyi's true dragon luck would be completely cut off. At that time, he would no longer be the legitimate crown prince of the Empire of Qin. He would be an ordinary descendant of the imperial family. Looking at the dragon of providence, Ma Chenyi's elegant eyes narrowed slightly. He was the one who inherited the strongest bloodline of the imperial family of the Empire of Qin from birth. From the moment he was born, his position as the crown prince was established. He was taught personally by the emperor and assisted by the ministers of the 3 dynasties. He was proficient in both political and martial arts. He was born to be a ruler. However, in these years, his providence and bloodline power of providence had been constantly draining. The true dragon providence, which had already grown strong, was constantly being devoured. He had searched everywhere, but couldn't find the problem's problem. However, it must have something to do with his good younger brother who suddenly rose to power. Ever since Ma Chenyi's position as the crown prince was confirmed, no one in the imperial family of the Empire of Qin could compete with him. After all, there was only one true dragon. The power of providence from other bloodlines could not be compared to it. However, this situation had completely changed since his good younger brother returned a few years ago. 2 dragons fighting. His opponent's providence and bloodline power were not inferior to his. Moreover, his providence had transformed from a flood dragon into a dragon. Chapter 822. Over the years, Ma Chenyi's true dragon power had been constantly declining, while the other party had been growing stronger with each passing day. Ma Chenyi would never believe that there was no connection between the two. But he couldn't find out where the problem was. He could only rely on those spiritual medicines that strengthened and stabilized his bloodline power to maintain the vitality of his true dragon power. But this only treated the symptoms and not the root cause. He had to grasp the root cause to completely end this situation. He had followed Grand Tutor Jiang out this time partly for this reason. Luo Qingtong had obtained the corpse of Great Yang's 7th prince and extracted the bloodline power and power of destiny from it, causing Great Yang's destiny to be damaged. This matter could be hidden from others, but it couldn't be hidden from the royal family of the 4 dynasties. Although it was very likely that the Supreme of the Black Field had contributed to this. But since Luo Qingtong was able to invite the Supreme of the Black Field, then befriending her would only be beneficial to Ma Chenyi. He was already in this state, what else could he not lose? If he could invite the Supreme of the Black Field through Luo Qingtong to examine the problem with his bloodline, that would naturally be for the best. If he couldn't, befriending that young girl would be extremely fortunate. Ma Chenyi thought of the moment when he had followed Grand Tutor Jiang into the square of Tianyu Imperial Palace. The young girl stood in the center of the crowd like a flourishing flame, blooming like a dazzling red lotus. Absolutely beautiful and domineering. Overbearing and domineering. He really didn't expect that the young girl who had been conferred the title of Great Chu's princess would be so charming. Truly like a jade pearl, shining brightly when closed. He clasped his hands behind his back, his elegant eyes filled with admiration and admiration. Even his gaze couldn't help but stop for such a young girl. That Yuan Mo actually disdained and looked down on her? What kind of eyesight did he have? With Ma Chenye's education and upbringing, he couldn't say the word blind. But he really did feel that way. If he had such a fiancée, he wouldn't even look at other women. Thinking of what he knew about UNMO in the Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty, Ma Chenyi snorted and said to Grand Tutor Jiang, "Grand Tutor, let's go back." In addition, this time, the envoy came to the Tianyu Empire to deliver the imperial edict, but he disobeyed the imperial edict. This must be thoroughly investigated. Uproot all the aristocratic families and forces that are involved in this matter. Eradicate them all. No matter who comes to plead for leniency, just say that it's an order from me. At this moment, Ma Chenye's elegant and gentle aura completely retreated, revealing the aura of a high and mighty king. Over the years, because his bloodline power and power of providence had been taken away, he had gradually fallen from grace in the imperial court. But no matter how crouching a dragon was, it was still a dragon. He was the dragon of the Empire of Qin, the future crown prince of the Holy Dynasty. Unless the sage emperor personally issued a decree, his words were irrefutable. No one could stop him. Even if the sage emperor personally issued a decree, as long as Ma Chenyi insisted, he could resist it without harming the foundation of the empire. Moreover, Luo Qingtong gave him such a good excuse to act this time. Humiliating Great Chu's princess. Let's see if he didn't ruthlessly pull out his good little brother's claws and teeth when he returned this time. How much he could escape would depend on the other party's ability. As for UNMO, Ma Chenye's eyes narrowed slightly. Chapter 823. Tell our people to protect them. We don't need to go overboard. We just need to make sure they're fine. Presumably, Luo Qingtong would be very willing to go back and teach those blind people a lesson. He wouldn't interfere in this matter. Moreover, letting Ling Tianhan and the others suffer a little would be beneficial to their growth. Ma Chenyi had learned the way of the emperor since he was young, so he naturally knew what was the best course of action. As for Yuan Ma, he really didn't know what kind of expression he would have when he found out that the fiancé he looked down on so much turned out to be such a precious pearl. What an idiot. Even if such a treasure was in his hands, he would still miss it. Ma Chenyi shook his head and left the Tianyu Empire with Grand Tutor Jiang, returning to the Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty. After all, he had already met Luo Qingtong's people, so there was no need for him to go to the Luo family. After leaving the Tianyu Empire, Luo Qingtong returned to the Heavenly Evil Valley and began to refine the elixir for Grandfather Luo. With the 7-leaf blood refining lotus given by Ma Chenyi and the herbs and the gifts from the Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty, it was more than enough for her to refine the bloodline elixir. After the 7-leaf blood refining lotus was refined into an elixir, its medicinal efficacy would be increased by 200%. In addition to Luo Qingtong's medicine inscription technique, the medicinal efficacy would be even stronger. At that time, Grandfather Luo wouldn't have to worry about the bloodline fusion. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong threw the 7-leaf blood refining lotus and the other herbs into the square Immortal cauldron to refine the elixir. This cauldron could automatically control the fire, so Luo Qingtong didn't have to worry about controlling it. Compared to the cauldrons she used before, this one was many times better. Luo Qingtong was very grateful to the heavenly doctor who came to find trouble. If the other party could bring a treasure like the square Immortal cauldron every time, it wouldn't matter even if he came to find trouble a few more times. She really didn't mind the trouble. Little Pig clicked his tongue in wonder when he saw Luo Qingtong refining the bloodline pill. This 7-leaf blood refining lotus is indeed a rare elixir, and it can improve the fusion and compatibility of bloodline power. It should be useful for the crown prince of the Empire of Qin, right? Why did he give it to you? Little Pig propped up his cheeks and said. He probably has something to ask of me. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She thought of the scene she saw when Ma Chenyi gave her the medicine. The art of stealing fate? Someone was actually plundering Ma Chenyi's fate and bloodline power. No wonder when she saw Ma Chenyi, she felt that there was something wrong with his aura. However, Luo Qingtong didn't want to get involved in the internal disputes of the royal family of the Empire of Qin. This kind of luck-seizing technique could only be done by people of the same bloodline. Ma Chen-ye's draconic energy was weak, so someone else's draconic energy was strong. In this kind of battle for the throne, her identity as Luo Qingtong and Great Chu's conferred princess was too sensitive and special. It wasn't good for her to get involved. Luo Qingtong also didn't want to bring trouble to grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi. Moreover, her relationship with Ma Chenyi wasn't close enough for her to expose her identity. Therefore, she didn't treat him at that time. When the time came, she would use the identity of evil Dr. Ghost Eyes to treat him. It could be considered as returning the favor. After all, didn't he give her the medicine for the person behind her who could refine Great Yong's 7th prince's bloodline power? However, he didn't expect that person to be her. Moreover, the 7th prince's bloodline power wasn't extracted by her, but by the square Immortal cauldron. Although Luo Qingtong couldn't extract the bloodline power, she still had a way to deal with the art of stealing fate. It could only be said that Ma Chenyi found the right person. Moreover, the way he gave the medicine was quite suitable for her taste. Chapter 824. Before Luo Qingtong left, she had already used her mental power to set up a protective barrier around the Ma Chenyi. During this period of time, the other party's power of destiny and bloodline would not be plundered. Luo Qingtong concentrated on refining pills. When she threw the power of destiny and bloodline that she had plundered from Great Yong's 7th prince into the square Immortal cauldron and refined it together with the spiritual herbs, the wailing of the dragon of destiny above Great Yong's ancestral temple became even louder. Bang! In Great Yong's imperial palace, Feng Wuan was ruthlessly slapped and instantly fell to the ground. This is all because of you. The saint transcendence of Great Yong's imperial family was alarmed, and his hand that was pointing at Feng Wuan was trembling. Great Yong's face had been completely thrown away by this proud descendant of his. Now, Great Yong's dragon of destiny was still wailing. If not for the fact that Feng Wuan was the most outstanding member of the imperial family in this generation, this saint transcendence of Great Yong's imperial family would have strangled her to death. Only the heavens knew how he felt when he woke up and saw the dragon of destiny wailing. This was simply a disgrace to Great Yong. He clearly knew who did it, but he could not find the other party to settle the score. Vile spawn, do you know your wrongs? He looked at Feng Wuan and said furiously. Yuan knows her wrongs. I beg great-grandfather to calm down. Feng Wuan knelt on the ground, her entire face swelled up, and blood continuously flowed from the corner of her lips. That slap from the saint transcendence of Great Yong's imperial family had directly broken the corner of her lips. However, Feng Wuan could not make a sound. The fate of the nation was stolen, and her bloodline was lost. It was all her fault, and she had no way to defend herself. Thinking of the person who had caused her to face such a situation and humiliation, Feng Wuan's palm was about to be crushed by her own hands. Luo Qingtong, evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Just you wait. Her heart was filled with hatred. The transcendent saint from Great Yong berated her for half a day and punished her to kneel for several hours before letting her go. However, this was also to make her go back home and reflect on her mistakes. Furthermore, Feng Wuan's saint title had been revoked. Committing such a mistake. Your saint title is temporarily revoked. Since when have your achievements been able to offset your mistakes this time? I'll return this title to you later. The transcendent saint from Great Yong said as he retracted the multicolored light within Feng Wuan's body that represented Great Yong's fate. Feeling the loss of the multicolored light in his body, Feng Wuan felt even more hatred in his heart. She clenched her teeth. Ever since she had taken control of Great Yong's affairs at the age of 12, she had never suffered such a great loss or humiliation. In all of Great Yong, who would not be proud of her? But now, he was being reprimanded and humiliated like this, and even his saint title was being stripped away. As for Luo Qingtong, that girl from an inferior country that she did not care about, she had become the saint princess of Great Chu in one leap. When the two of them meet in the future, the other party's status would be above hers. Unless she could reclaim her saint title before that happened. However, how could this be easy? Great Shu had already completely cut off all paths, and they could no longer have any ideas. The only ones left were Great Qi and the Empire of Qin. However, Great Qi was too far away, and only the strongest country, the Empire of Qin, was left. Only by taking action against them would there be a possibility of reclaiming her saint title. Chapter 825. But Luo Qingtong was now the holy princess of Great Shu. Feng Yuan couldn't let herself lose to Luo Qingtong. She had already lost to the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. She couldn't be suppressed by Luo Qingtong again. Thinking of this, Feng Yuan's eyes were hazy. Before returning to Great Yong, she would never have thought that she would be forced to this point by a person she looked down on. Luo Qingtong, evil Dr. Ghost Eye. These two bitches. Feng Yuan covered his swollen face that was as big as a steamed bun and instantly slammed his palm on the square table in front of him. At this moment, a faintly discernible connection quickly touched her. Feeling the source of the touch, Feng Yuan's expression changed slightly. She raised her hand and set up a boundary around her body. Then she changed her voice with a cold expression and said in a proud and low voice, "King Wu of the Empire of Qin, what's the matter?" In an extremely luxurious and noble mansion in the holy capital of the Empire of Qin, a young man with a gloomy and arrogant face, after reprimanding the people around him, said discontentedly to the air, "The connection between Ma Chenyi and I has been cut off." Heavenly Doctor, didn't you say that this method of seizing fate is absolutely foolproof? No one will find any clues. What's going on now? Mo Chenxuan's expression was very sullen. He had been unable to absorb Ma Chenye's qi of the true dragon for several days. Could it be that the other party had already sensed something and cut off the connection between the two of them? If so, he had to make plans early. Mo Chenxian was not afraid of anything else, but he was afraid that Ma Chenye's qi of the true dragon would recover. At that time, wouldn't he be beaten back to his original state? Thinking of this, Mo Chenxuan's eyes were even more gloomy and vicious. This is impossible. Feng Yuan's voice was cold, and the meaning of her words was very arrogant. The method of seizing fate. Only I can use it, and no one can see through it. Even if you can see through it, it's impossible to break it. Otherwise, we would have been discovered when we attacked Ma Chenyi. How is it possible that you are still here safely and have plundered his fate and bloodline power to such an extent? Her words calmed Mo Chenxian down. In fact, he did not believe that Ma Chenyi had broken the luck-seizing technique. If that was the case, the other party would have already made a move on him. But, even if he was seen through, it didn't matter. Mo Chenxian sneered. He looked at the Providence dragon in his body, which had grown to a very powerful level, and his face was full of pride. He had already absorbed almost all of Ma Chenye's luck and bloodline power. Unless Ma Chenyi had the ability to reverse and retrieve the bloodline power and the power of Providence. Otherwise, with the current power of karmic luck and bloodline, he wouldn't be able to withstand Yang Kai's attacks at all. He, Mo Chenxian, would definitely rise to the top. The Empire of Qin would be his sooner or later. But if that was the case, it would be a little troublesome for him to deal with Ma Chenyi. After all, he was the only real dragon in the Empire of Qin, the crown prince of the Holy Dynasty. Even if he was a dying dragon, he was not so easy to deal with. Mo Chenxian only hoped that he could absorb all of karmic luck and bloodline power, so that karmic luck would not be able to turn the situation around and fight back. In this way, he could really sit back and relax. Chapter 826. Mo Chenai had indeed obtained a 7-leaf blood refining lotus recently. Perhaps it was because of the 7-leaf blood refining lotus that he was unable to absorb the power of Providence from his bloodline. However, as long as the art of seizing fate was not broken, the power of the 7-leaf blood lotus would be consumed sooner or later. At that time, wouldn't Ma Chenyi be obedient and let him absorb it? Thinking of this, Mo Chenxian suddenly laughed and cut off the connection with Feng Yuan. Suddenly cut off, Feng Yuan's face turned ugly. But soon, the expression on her face recovered and she sneered. Mo Qianxian was a hidden chess piece that she had arranged in the Empire of Qin. The Empire of Qin was powerful, and the crown prince of the Empire of Qin was born to be the emperor. It was almost unshakable. If Feng Yuan wanted to unify the four dynasties, she had to do something to him. Therefore, she found Mo Qianxian and helped him fight for the throne with Ma Qianyi in the name of the Heavenly Doctor. Feng Yuan used her art of seizing fate on Mo Qianxian and Ma Qianyi, so that Mo Qianxian, who had almost no bloodline power, could constantly absorb Ma Qianyi's dragon-shaped fate to grow. Until now, he was the king of martial arts in the Empire of Qin and could compete with Ma Qianyi, the crown prince. This art of seizing fate was something that Feng Yuan could barely do by using her special pupils and the bloodline power of the Great Yong royal family. When she was in Great Yong's imperial family, she had relied on this to suck dry the bloodline power and power of providence of those who had the ability to be her opponents. That was how she had achieved her current status as Great Yong's #1 imperial princess. In the whole Great Yong, except for her, there was no one else with such outstanding ability. Because the bloodline power and the power of providence of those people had all been absorbed by her. Because of this, she became a stunning talent. Now, she was using the same technique to help Mo Qianxian absorb Ma Qianyi's fate and bloodline power. She did not believe that anyone could see through it and break it. After all, even a transcendent sage wouldn't be able to see through it. Of course, if one's strength was far above this, it was very likely that one would be able to see it clearly. For example, Underworld Paragon. Thinking of Yi Qianxian, Feng Yuan's heart was filled with an indescribable love and hatred. She hated that this man didn't even look at her. Otherwise, he would definitely discover that he was more suitable for him than the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. She loved this man's peerless handsomeness and shocking strength. The Empire of Qin, this time, I will not let it go. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye, Luo Qingtong, just you wait. Once she controlled the Empire of Qin, she would break through to the saint stage. At that time, she would let everyone know who was the most suitable person to stand beside Ming Zun. Luo Qingtong did not know of Feng Yuan's ambition. She was now wholeheartedly refining the bloodline pill in her hand. Great Yong's fate power entered the cauldron, and a rosy glow shot up to the sky. In an instant, a pill was formed. Luo Qingtong held it in her hand and felt the rich medicinal power surging within. There was even a faint dragon-shaped pattern in it, and he immediately smiled. All right. Success. It's time to go back to Great Chu. Luo Qingtong thought of the man in the black field. She didn't know if his anger had completely dissipated. Luo Qingtong really missed Yi Qianxian. Stroking the 9 phoenix ring in her hand, Luo Qingtong smiled wickedly. Maybe it's time to go back and give that man a surprise. Chapter 827. Great Chu, the main city of the Black Field. Yi Qianxian sat on the seat of honor with a cold expression, handling the documents sent from the main city. The low pressure around him was very cold. That woman left for so many days, and she didn't come back. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. He thought that after Luo Shaoqi left that day, Luo Qingtong would come back. But he didn't expect that woman to be delayed for so many days, and she didn't come back. With that thought in mind, Yi Qianren's aura grew colder and colder, causing the experts from the Black Domain who were reporting the news from the main city and the other main cities of the Black Domain to feel like crying. The Lord's aura was getting more and more terrifying. They looked at Bei Qing and Feng Yu for help. The two of them stood behind Yi Qianxian like door gods, and turned a blind eye to their gazes. What a joke! Who could cure the Lord's cold aura except for the demonic doctor? Unless the demonic doctor came back immediately and appeared in front of the Lord, they could only accept it obediently. These people were considered good, and they could leave after they finished reporting. The people who followed the Lord were the most miserable, weren't they? Just as the two of them were thinking, they suddenly heard a voice reporting from outside. My lord, the demonic doctor sent you a gift. A gift? Yi Qianren raised his head and looked ahead, only to see two experts from the Black region carrying a huge box as they walked in. "My lord, this is a gift from the demonic doctor. She asked that only you can open it," one of the Black field experts said respectfully. Yi Qianren's eyes narrowed as she looked at the huge box. She didn't know what that woman was doing. Could it be that this was the wedding gift she had prepared for Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yanxi? Could it be that this woman didn't want to come back? Thinking of this, Yi Qianren's brows furrowed tightly. What else did she say? He looked at the two Black field experts who carried the box in. The two of them shook their heads and said, "No. Sir, Evil Doctor only said that he wanted you to open this box personally. He said that it was a special surprise for you." That woman. Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth. It would be a very special surprise if he opened the box and saw a pile of gifts and a note that the woman was not going to come back. With that thought in mind, Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth even harder. That woman. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have let her go. They should have captured him as soon as possible, so that she wouldn't run away without a trace. Yi Qianxian couldn't be blamed for worrying about personal gains and losses. But in this world, Luo Qingtong was the only woman he could not catch no matter how hard he tried. He had a feeling that if he didn't pay attention, the other party would disappear from his life. In the past, Yi Qianxian might not have cared. After all, he did not need another woman in his life. But now, if there was no Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianxian would definitely go crazy. He looked at the huge box and waved his hand, saying, "All of you, leave." Yes. The group of powerhouses from the Dark Domain accepted the order and retreated from the hall. Bei Qing and Feng Yu tactfully left as well. After all, who knew what the evil doctor had given their master? The two of them were really scared of being tricked. What if the master exploded again? With that thought, they ran faster than rabbits. They were afraid that their master would change his mind and call them back. Chapter 828. He raised his hand, swoosh. The lid of the box was suddenly lifted. Then, a figure suddenly rushed out from inside. La la. Yi Qianxian, I'm back. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Luo Qingtong smiled wickedly and hugged the man's neck tightly. Just like when she was still Luo Xiaoqi, she hung on him and looked at the man with smiling eyes. In the next second, she kissed the man on the lips. Yi Qianren stood in the middle of the hall and looked at the young girl who had rushed out of the box with a sweet smile on her face. His eyes were so cold that it was terrifying. In the next second, he grabbed the girl's shoulders and lifted her up. Then, he kissed her deeply. Luo Qingtong raised her head and endured the man's intense plundering. Her hand circled around Yi Qianxian's back and felt the scorching heat under the man's robe. The smile in her eyes was indescribably charming. It seems that the Lord missed me a lot. After the kiss, Luo Qingtong licked her lips that were almost swollen from the kiss. Her tender red tongue brushed past her snow-white teeth and crimson lips. It was indescribably evil and enchanting. This seductress. Yi Qianxian looked at Luo Qingtong with dark eyes. He suddenly got up and carried the woman in his arms back to the bedroom. However, he had only taken a few steps when he felt a weight in his arms. He looked down and saw Luo Qingtong nestled in his arms. Her head was drooping and leaning on his chest. Her small hands were holding onto his clothes and she was sleeping soundly. This woman. Yi Qianren fiercely gritted her teeth. However, when her gaze landed on the young girl's sweet sleeping face, her gaze softened. Humph. If only you were so obedient. Yi Qianxian snorted. He lowered his head and caressed the girl's pink, petal-like lips for a moment. Then, he strode back to the bedroom with her in his arms. However, the eagerness and passion from before had calmed down. It's good that this woman is back. As for the other matters, there was no hurry. Yi Qianxian didn't want to admit that the moment Luo Qingtong emerged from the box, his heart was violently moved. It was as if a lost treasure had returned to his embrace. This woman had already become an inseparable part of his life. It was just his return, but it already made him so happy that he almost couldn't control himself. However, this woman was completely different from other women. If he wanted to win her heart completely, he couldn't rush it. Luo Qingtong slept soundly. It had been a long time since she had slept so peacefully and without worry. In the past, she would always maintain a certain level of vigilance when she slept. But this time, she really didn't wake up. She completely lost consciousness in Yi Qianqian's arms. Perhaps it was because she subconsciously felt that Yi Qianqian's side was the safest place. No one could hurt her in front of this man. When Luo Qingtong woke up, she didn't know what time it was. The sky outside was slightly dark, so she couldn't tell whether it was evening or early morning. Luo Qingtong woke up with a yawn. She raised her eyes and saw the handsome face of the man beside her. Yi Qianqian's eyes were slightly closed. Under the faint light by the window, his face looked like a god who had fallen to the mortal world. Noble, handsome, otherworldly, exceptional. Chapter 829. However, her face was just close to the man. The latter's tightly shut eyes immediately opened. That pair of eyes that seemed to contain countless swords and blades, incomparably cold and domineering, stared at Luo Qingtong's face. Then, in the next second, those dark sword lights instantly turned into countless flames that were incomparably hot. Bang! Yi Qianxian turned over and got up, pressing Luo Qingtong under his body. Try playing with fire again? The man's voice was indescribably hoarse and deep. Yi Qianxian's eyes were fixed on Luo Qingtong, and there seemed to be countless flames jumping in his eyes. All of the blood-red light and sword qi were burned to ashes. It also turned all his coldness into forbearing passion and heat. This woman really had to be taught a lesson. How much self-control did she think she had to be able to keep her composure in the face of his repeated temptations? Luo Qingtong smiled evilly when she heard this, and was about to say something when she put her arms around the man's neck. At this moment, a voice suddenly came in from outside, and the tone was very anxious. Not good, Lord Evil Doctor, quickly go and take a look. Old Master and Empress Dowager Yan Shi are fighting. Pfft. Suddenly hearing such a sentence, Luo Qingtong almost choked on her own saliva. Grandfather and Empress Dowager Yan Shi? Hadn't their misunderstanding been resolved? How could they fight? Luo Qingtong thought so, and immediately rushed to the Great Chu Imperial Palace. Grandfather. Luo Qingtong rushed to the Empress Dowager's residence and saw Old Master Luo being chased by Empress Dowager Yan Shi with a sword. She immediately stepped forward, stopped Empress Dowager Yan Shi, and asked, Grandmother, what are you doing? Ask him. Empress Dowager Yan Shi's eyes were red, and she pointed her sword at Old Master Luo. Luo Tong, you actually hid the matter of Jinghong from me for so long. If I hadn't found out by myself today, were you going to continue hiding it from me? As soon as she said that, Luo Qingtong immediately knew what was going on. Was it because of her father? Luo Qingtong looked at old man Luo, who looked dejected. It's not that I want to hide it from you, but... But what? Are you afraid that I can't accept the fact that Jinghong is gone? Yes. I can't accept it. Luo Tong, this is how you raised my son for 40 years. You didn't even tell me that he was dead. Not only that, he didn't even set up a memorial tablet for them. Now you still want to continue hiding it from me. Empress Dowager Yan Shi was obviously furious. Get lost. I'm not going to hold this wedding. I don't want to see you again. Grandfather Luo panicked when he heard this. Listen to me. I really didn't mean to hide it from you. It's not that I don't want to set up memorial tablets for them. As he spoke, he stomped his foot and gritted his teeth. It's just that they aren't dead yet. Qingtong's parents aren't dead yet. What? Empress Dowager Yan Shi was about to leave, but when she heard that, she immediately looked up at Old Master Luo. Luo Qingtong was also surprised. "Grandpa, you mean, my parents aren't dead?" But if that was the case, then why did everyone say that her parents were dead? If it weren't for the fact that the Luo family didn't have a successor, the second branch wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. Luo Xinming wouldn't have any ideas about her. Jing Huanhuan, no, oh. And the royal family of Tianyu. If it weren't for the death of Luo Qingtong's mother, why would they look down on Luo Qingtong and the Luo family? Chapter 830. AI. Old Master Luo sighed heavily. It's a long story, I didn't want to say it, but, AI. He looked at Empress Dowager Yan Shi helplessly. Originally, he wanted to find an opportunity in the future to slowly tell her about it. But Empress Dowager Yan Shi missed her son and went to investigate, which led to today's incident. Old Master Luo sighed even harder as he thought about it. Let's go in and talk. The group of people entered the main hall that was in a mess. Empress Dowager Yan Shi called people to clean up. Now that King Ning was dead, the entire Chu imperial family respected Empress Dowager Yan Shi. When the two fought, no one dared to stop them. When Empress Dowager Yan Shi flew into a rage, all the guards and maids who were responsible for serving the palace were reprimanded and retreated far away. Now that they heard Empress Dowager Yan Shi's summons, they dared to come back and clean up the mess. After everything was cleaned up, Luo Qingtong, Old Master Luo, and Empress Dowager Yan Shi sat together. Old Master Luo told them what happened in the past. Qingtong, your mother isn't an ordinary person. Old Master Luo's words were shocking. You also know that your mother cured you in Mo, right? Because of this, the Tianyu imperial family painstakingly begged for you and Yuan Mo to be engaged. At that time, your mother just wanted you to live a better life. That's why she agreed to the Tianyu imperial family's request, but she didn't expect them to be so cruel and unscrupulous. She also didn't expect that your mother and father would leave our Luo family one after another. Old Master Luo sighed. The reason why I told the outside world that your father and mother were dead was because your father told me to. Qingtong, you probably don't know, but your mother was actually an alchemist, and an extremely high-level one at that. She wasn't from our Sky Spill continent. When she and your father returned to the Luo family, her strength was almost exhausted. After having you, she did everything she could to protect you. Not long after she cured you in Mo, she received a message from the outside world and left. Your father waited for her in the Luo family. When you were 2 years old, he also left the Luo family, saying that he was going to find her. Before he left, he told me that if he didn't return, I was to tell the outside world that they were dead. Otherwise, I'm afraid it would bring disaster to the Luo family. I wanted to raise Qingtong, so I did as he said. For so many years, there was no news is news. But before your father left, he left behind a jade pendant for you. Old Master Luo continued, he said that the jade pendant is linked to his life. As long as it doesn't break, he'll be fine. As for your mother's peace, it's with you and Ma. Back then, it was left behind as a token of engagement between the two of you. As old Luo took as Luo O said Luo Qingtong Luo took Luo it was a translucent jade pendant. If Yuan Ma was here, he would realize that this jade pendant was a pair with the one around his neck. The two crescent-shaped jade pendants were connected from head to tail, forming a perfect circle. It Luto Luo Tian, the shape of the blood droplets was perfect. This jade pendant was left to you by your father. It is also your and Yuan Mo's engagement token. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She knew about the engagement token between her and Yuan Mo. She had wanted to wait until her engagement with Yuan Mo was completely annulled before retrieving the engagement token. She didn't think that this engagement token would be the treasure that kept the original owner's mother alive. Outside of it, there was an even wider sky and even more experts. Luo Qingtong thought so, her heart was boiling. I only know that your mother came from a place called Flying Feather. I don't know anything else. Grandpa Luo shook his head. When his daughter-in-law came to the Luo family, other than her medical skills, she had no strength at all. He was afraid of touching her sore spot, so he didn't ask. I know, at this moment, Empress Dowager Yan Shi's voice sounded. Chapter 832. The Land of the Hidden World. In the main city of the Black Field, Luo Qingtong frowned as she thought about what Empress Dowager Yan Shi had said. The Land of the Hidden World, even in the Sky Spill continent, was an extremely mysterious and powerful place. There are countless powerful hidden sects there. It is said that there is a realm above the Saint Realm. And the place with the most powerhouses that surpass the Saint Realm is the Land of the Hidden World. The powerhouses there don't often come out, but once they take a liking to you as a disciple, you will be able to step onto the path to heaven. The Yanyu family that you have a relationship with, their young master, Yanyu Ju, was taken in as a disciple by a powerhouse there. Empress Dowager Yan Shi said, it is said that that is the only place that connects to the outside world. If you want to go to the outside world, you must first go to the Land of the Hidden World. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she couldn't help but think of Yi Qianxian. If Yi Qianxian and the others came from the outside world, wouldn't they be very clear about the Land of the Hidden World? As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she came back to ask Yi Qianxian. However, the man's answer disappointed her. I didn't come in through the Land of the Hidden World. Yi Qianxian's expression was light. With his strength, if he wanted to enter the Sky Spill continent, why would he need to go through the Land of the Hidden World? Those people in the Hidden World had probably never even met him face to face. Why are you asking this? Yi Qianxian looked at her and frowned. With your current strength, it is not suitable for you to go outside the continent. This woman shouldn't do anything stupid. Only those above the Saint Realm had the qualifications to leave the continent. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to withstand the rich and abundant spiritual energy outside. Naturally, Yi Qianren could protect her and walk around outside. However, it was impossible for him to be by Luo Qingtong's side all the time and protect her from the terrifying spiritual energy pressure from the outside world. Therefore, it was best for Luo Qingtong to cultivate to the Saint Realm before leaving the continent. Yes. Luo Qingtong nodded. I know. Hearing the slight nervousness in the man's words, she felt a little amused. Did she look like such a rash person? This man was really nervous about what? However, she didn't know that she had done so many shocking things that Yi Qianxian would inevitably think too much about it. Yes, wait until your strength increases in the future. There's no hurry. Yi Qianxian's eyes darkened as he gently stroked Luo Qingtong's hair. Is there any other way to get to the hidden world? Luo Qingtong looked at him and asked. Yes. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. Half a year later, the 4 great saint academies will hold a grand meeting to decide the number 1 in the eastern region. At the same time, you will participate in the 4 regions competition and compete for a spot to enter the hidden world. At that time, the sects in the hidden world will head to the 4 regions to select the disciples they need to replenish their new blood. At that time, it will be the way for people below the Saint Realm to enter the hidden world. Yi Qianxian looked at her and said. Half a year later? Luo Qingtong looked at him and blinked. Wasn't that the date agreed upon by the Grand Dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin? When Luo Qingtong had asked for leave, the Grand Dean had agreed with her that no matter where Luo Qingtong was at that time, she had to rush to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Could it be because of this? If so, then it was no wonder that the Grand Dean insisted that she rush to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin at that time. It turned out that it was to have one more trump card. While Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin, you're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.